April 25th, 1984. 301 Australian Avenue, Palm Beach. The heat is already pressing down by mid-morning. White stucco walls hold the warmth. Spanish tiles radiate it back. The Brazilian Court Hotel sits 5 miles from the Kennedy estate, which might as well be 5,000. 11:32 in the morning. Elizabeth Barnett, hotel secretary, walks down the corridor. Her shoes click against the tile. She's been sent to check on room 107. A woman called from Boston. Frantic. Her son missed his flight. Where is he? Is he all right? Elizabeth knocks. No answer. She knocks again. Silence behind the door. She uses her passkey. The lock clicks. The door swings open. The room is neat. Both beds made. The maid service hasn't been needed. Neither bed has been slept in. Between the 2 beds. On the floor, face down, a person. Elizabeth moves closer. She knows immediately. He has been gone for hours. The medical examiner will later determine 12, maybe 14. Time tells its own story. She backs away. Calls the front desk. Within minutes, the hotel manager calls the number from Boston. The woman who called before, Mrs. Kennedy. Before the manager can speak, the woman says 6 words. He's dead, isn't he? Then she hangs up. The police arrive, the medical examiner, the investigators. They photograph everything, the position of the body, the made beds, the neat room, in his wallet. They find a family photograph, everyone smiling, taken before an assassination, before everything broke. The medical examination will reveal multiple substances, evidence of long-term drug use, physical trauma consistent with an overdose. The details tell a familiar story about addiction. His name is David Anthony Kennedy. He is 28 years old. He is the 3rd son of Robert F. Kennedy. He has been dead since sometime in the night. But the question is not how he died in room 107 on April the 25th, 1984. The question is what killed him 16 years earlier, when he was 12 years old and his father was still breathing 16 years earlier. June 5th, 1968. The Ambassador Hotel, Los Angeles. Chapter 1. The Witness. June 15th, 1955. Georgetown University Hospital, Washington, District of Columbia. A 4th child is born. The father is Robert Francis Kennedy, 30 years old, brother of the President-elect, soon to be Attorney General. The mother is Ethel Skakel Kennedy, 27, daughter of a wealthy industrialist. The child's name is David Anthony Kennedy. He grows up at Hickory Hill, 1147 Chain Bridge Road, McLean, Virginia, a white brick colonial on 6 acres. Robert Kennedy bought it from his brother John in 1957. The lawn is always full. Touch football games that turn violent. Children tackling each other. Bloodying noses. Swimming pool where Ethel pushes guests into the water. Dogs everywhere. Horses. A zoo of pets. Ethel once brought home a sea lion. This is the Kennedy way. Vigor, competition, constant motion. Never admit weakness. Never stop moving. David is different. The others are loud. He is quiet. The others aggressive. He is gentle. Adults describe him as sensitive, artistic, thoughtful. These are not compliments in a Kennedy household. These are weaknesses. But his father loves him anyway. Maybe because David does not demand. Maybe because he simply exists without needing to prove anything. Summers at Hyannis Port, the Kennedy compound on Cape Cod. 3 houses, 6 acres of waterfront. David learns to sail. He is good at it. Sailing requires patience, attention, quietness, things David has. November 22nd, 1963. David is 8 years old. President John Fitzgerald Kennedy is shot and killed in Dallas. David watches it on television. The aftermath, the chaos, the sudden understanding that Kennedys can die. This is David's first lesson in loss, delivered via television, violence brought into the living room. His father becomes the dead president's brother. David watches his father grieve. and learns the Kennedy rule: you do not talk about it. You compete harder. You keep moving. For 4 years, life proceeds, damaged but functional, sad but survivable. And then comes June 5th, 1968, the Ambassador Hotel, Los Angeles. Robert Kennedy is 42, running for president. He has won the California Democratic primary. It is just after midnight, technically June 6th now. David is 12. He's on the 5th floor, room 511, with siblings and cousins. The adults are downstairs at the victory party. The children are supposed to be sleeping. They're watching television instead. 12:15 in the morning. On the screen, their father takes the podium, 4 floors below, the ballroom packed. Cheering. Robert Kennedy thanks supporters. Quotes, "Sure, thanks pregnant Ethel." Ends with, "My thanks to all of you. And now it's on to Chicago, and let's win there." The crowd roars. He turns to leave. Security routes him through the hotel kitchen, a shortcut, the pantry, narrow, crowded. David watches the television. Cameras follow his father through the crowd. Then the cameras shift. Confusion, shouting. 12:15 in the morning. In the pantry kitchen 4 floors below. Shots are fired, but on the television screen in room 511. The image takes time to reach David. The broadcast delays. The cameras struggle to show what has happened. By the time David sees it clearly, by the time he understands what he is watching, it is sometime around 12:30 a.m. The exact moment is not documented, but the broadcast delay means he did not see it in real time. On the screen, chaos, people screaming, bodies pushing, "Get the gun! Get the gun!" The image shakes. A man on the ground. "Is there a doctor, sir?" David is 12 years old. 4 floors above the pantry kitchen where his father has just been shot by a man named Sirhan Bishara Sirhan. 24 years old. Born in Jerusalem. Came to America as a child. 22 caliber revolver. 8 shots. 3 hit Robert Kennedy. 1 in the head behind the right ear. Point blank. This will kill him. David sees it on television. His father on the ground. Chaos. Confusion. The image freezes in his mind. Past midnight. June 6th. June 6th, 1968. Blue flicker of the television. Sound turned up. Anchors struggling to explain. David's hands begin to shake. He does not cry. Shock. Other children screaming. Adults rush in. Someone turns off the television. But the image remains. In David's mind. For 16 years. Robert Kennedy rushed to Good Samaritan Hospital. Emergency surgery. Massive brain damage. He will never regain consciousness. David taken to hospital. Waiting room. Antiseptic smell. Fluorescent lights too bright. Hands shaking. 26 hours of waiting. From 12:47 a.m. June 6th to 1:44 a.m. June 6th. Doctors in and out. Ethel, pregnant. Stays by her husband. Holds his hand. June 6th, 1968. 1:44 in the morning. Robert Francis Kennedy pronounced dead. Age 42, leaves widow, 10 children, 11th on the way. Leaves 12-year-old son who watched on television and will never recover. The funeral, St. Patrick's Cathedral. June 8th. Ethel, visibly pregnant, walks behind casket with 10 children. David, age 12. Dark suit. Face blank. 21-car funeral train from New York to Washington. 8 hours. Hundreds of thousands line the tracks. Heat, candles, waving, crying. David at train window. All these people, all this grief. His father belonged to everyone, never fully to his children. Burial at Arlington, near Brother John. Nighttime. Candles. Eternal flame flickers. David with siblings. Still not crying. Life supposed to continue. Hickory Hill, Ethel 39. Pregnant, widowed, murdered husband like his brother. 5 years apart. Both on television. Ethel keeps moving. Fills the house. Politicians, journalists, athletes. Always full. Dinners for 20. Noise everywhere. Life everywhere except the quiet moments. David keeps waiting for someone to talk about his father's death. What he saw, the fear, the image that will not leave. Father on the floor. Chaos. 12:47 a.m. Forever. Weeks pass. Months. No one brings it up. They talk about legacy, campaigns, achievements, not death, not violence. One day David corners Ethel in the kitchen. Just the two of them. David asks about his father. What happened? How to feel about what he saw? Ethel looks at him. Not cruel, not cold. Overwhelmed. 10 children, soon 11. House to run. Legacy to protect. Grief she cannot name, according to those close to the family. She said words to the effect of, "It's not a subject I want to discuss." End of conversation. David does not ask again. Learns the rule. Do not talk about it. Carry it. Keep moving. But David cannot keep moving. 12 years old. Watched father murdered on television. No one helps him make sense of it. So David finds his own way to numb it, to freeze it at 12:47 a.m. But that comes later. For now he carries something, a photograph, from before the assassination. Family together, everyone smiling. Father's arm around him, taken at Hyannisport or Hickory Hill, when happiness was still possible. David keeps this in his wallet. Age 12. Small thing. Square of paper. Glossy. Worn edges from handling. His talisman. Proof there was a before. That June 5th, 1968, was not the beginning of time. David Kennedy carries a photograph 16 years. Never changes. People do not age. Father never dies. Image frozen. Before. But time keeps moving. June 6th becomes June 7th, July, December, 1969, 70. David grows older. Mother delivers 11th child, December 68. Daughter Rory never meets father. Life continues. Chaotic, loud, full. Underneath hollow. Children not being parented. Fed, housed, schooled. But not seen, not heard, not helped to process the incomprehensible. David 12, 13, 14. Adolescence hard enough. Adolescence as Kennedy. Shadow of 2 assassinations. Mother cannot stop to grieve. Something else entirely. What do you do when the moment that defines you is the moment you want to forget? Chapter 2. The Medicine. Months after the assassination, David meets his older brother's friends. Bobby Jr. is 15. David is 13. Bobby has discovered something that helps, something that makes the television screen image fade, something that lets you sleep. Marijuana first, then alcohol. This is 1970. David is 14 years old. 2 years after watching his father bleed out on national television, 2 years of nightmares, 2 years of that frozen image at 12:47 a.m., and then the drugs work, for the first time since June 5th, 1968. David sleeps through the night. The nightmares stop. The blue flicker of the television fades. The screaming quiets. His hands stop shaking. This is not recreation. This is survival. The drugs do what therapy would have done, if therapy existed. If anyone had asked about June 5th, if anyone had said the words, "your father," and died, and "what did you see" in the same conversation. But no one did. So David finds his own therapy. Chemical, effective, temporary, for the first year. The drugs are medicine. They let him function, let him go to school, let him exist in a house full of people without constantly reliving the moment his father was shot. But medicine has a way of becoming something else. Middlesex School in Massachusetts. David is expelled. Too many absences. Behavioral problems. Signs the teachers recognize but do not name. He transfers to another prep school, then another. The pattern is forming. 1974. David briefly attends Harvard, following his father's path, his uncle's path, the Kennedy path. He does not last long. Drops out. The drugs are no longer medicine. They are need. They are habit. They are the only thing that works. Somewhere around 1972 or early 1973. Age 17. David tries heroin for the first time. Bobby Jr. shows him how This is stronger than marijuana, stronger than alcohol. This makes everything disappear, not just the television screen, everything. The guilt, the confusion, the question of why he is alive when his father is dead. Heroin makes that question go away for a while. Then comes August 13th, 1973, Nantucket Island, summer. The Kennedy compound is full. David is 17. His girlfriend is Pamela Kelly, 18 years old, from a local family. She is sweet, quiet. She makes David laugh sometimes. She does not ask about his father. She does not ask about the drugs she has started to notice. Beach party, Kennedy siblings, friends. Someone suggests going to the ferry. Someone else suggests a shortcut. Joseph Kennedy II, David's older brother, is driving, 20 years old. The oldest son, the responsible one, or supposed to be. The Jeep is open top, no seatbelts. This is 1973. Seatbelts are optional. Safety is for people who worry about consequences. They are on a sandy road, attempting a shortcut. Joe takes a turn too fast. The sand shifts. The Jeep tips, then rolls. Bodies thrown. David hits hard, feels something crack in his back, pain shooting down his spine. But he can move. He can get up. Pamela cannot. She is on the ground, not moving, her eyes open, conscious. But when she tries to stand, nothing happens. Her legs do not respond. She cannot feel them. Someone calls for help. Helicopter comes. Airlift to Cape Cod Hospital. David goes with her. His back hurts, but he can walk. Pamela cannot. Will never walk again. The doctors are clear. Spinal cord injury. Spinal cord injury. Paralyzed. Permanent. She is 18 years old. She's 18 years old. They tell her other things too. She will not survive past 40. She will never have children. Her body will not be able to handle pregnancy. Her life expectancy is cut in half. Both predictions will turn out to be wrong. But in August 1973, they sound like certainties. Joe Kennedy is cited for reckless driving. Fined $100. License suspended. That is the extent of his legal consequences. The insurance settlement comes later. An insurance settlement of approximately $850,000 to Pamela. She does not want to sue Joe. He is David's brother. She does not want to make it worse. Her father takes the money, buys a wheelchair-accessible house in Hyannis, tries to invest the rest, makes a couple of bad investments. Within 10 years, the money is gone. $668,000. A lifetime of paralysis. 10 years until the money runs out. The math does not work, but that is how it goes. David and Pamela keep seeing each other. For a while. At Hyannis Port. At the Kennedy compound. But David can barely look at her. Every time he sees the wheelchair, he sees what happened. What he was part of. Even though he was not driving. Even though it was not his fault. It feels like his fault. The guilt about Pamela compounds the guilt about his father. Why is he alive when his father is dead? Why can Pamela never walk when he walked away from that Jeep with nothing but a fractured vertebra? The questions spiral. The heroin helps them stop spiraling. For a while. There are two kinds of paralysis. Pamela's is physical, visible, permanent. From the chest down. Her body does not respond. Wheelchair for life. Everyone can see it. Everyone knows what happened. The Kennedy boy was driving too fast, and now this girl will never walk. David's paralysis is different. Psychological, invisible, but equally permanent. He is frozen at 12:47 a.m. June 6, 1968. He cannot move forward from that moment. The television screen, his father on the ground, the chaos, the confusion. He is trapped there, has been trapped there for 5 years, will be trapped there for the rest of his life, every time he sees Pamela. The two kinds of paralysis intersect. Her wheelchair is a reminder of what Kennedy recklessness costs. What happens when you drive too fast, live too hard, refuse to acknowledge consequences? His father died because someone shot him, but also because he was a Kennedy, because Kennedys put themselves in danger, because they believe they are invincible, until they are not. Pamela is paralyzed because Joe drove too fast, but also because she was with Kennedys, because Kennedys do not wear seatbelts, because safety is weakness. David carries both guilts. Father, Pamela, dead, paralyzed. Why him? Why is he the one who walks away? Why is he alive when better people are dead or broken? The heroine has an answer. The heroine says you are not alive. Not really. You are frozen at 12:47 a.m. You are paralyzed too, just in a different way. 1976. David has dropped out of Harvard by now, but he is still in the area, still using. He has been using heroin regularly for 3 years, but something changes. The tolerance builds. The tolerance builds. He needs more often. The gap between doses gets shorter. Weeks of continuous use. Hark, extended period of continuous use. Heroin had become his only focus. He stopped attending classes, stopped eating regularly, just using, trying to avoid withdrawal, trying to keep the television screen turned off. Then his heart starts acting strange. Fluttering, pounding, pain in his chest, hospital, bacterial endocarditis, inflammation of the heart lining, caused by bacteria entering the bloodstream through dirty needles, through heroin cut with things that should not go into veins, potentially fatal. The doctors tell him this: you could die, your heart could stop. He does not die, he survives, gets treated, recovers, goes back to using. The pattern is established now. Use, collapse, recover. Use. This will be the cycle for the next 8 years, until there is no more recovering. Pamela is in a wheelchair. David is in a different kind of prison. Both trapped by August 13th, 1973. Both unable to move forward. Both paralyzed. Can you forgive yourself when the person you hurt cannot walk away from what you did? David cannot answer this question, so he stops asking it. The heroine helps him stop asking, for a while. Chapter 3. The Turning Point. Joseph Patrick Kennedy. Sr. built an empire. Trusts established in 1926 for Rose and the children, another in 1936, another in 1949 for the grandchildren, a final one in 1959, each trust carefully structured, each designed to preserve wealth across generations. When Joseph Sr. died in 1969, he left behind $400 million. In today's currency, $2.67 billion. The empire was vast. The Merchandise Mart in Chicago, the largest privately owned building in the country, Manhattan real estate, holdings in Hollywood studios, whiskey importation, investments that multiplied across decades. The trusts worked like this principle held in blind trust. Income distributed annually. Control transferred at age milestones. When John Kennedy became president, his trust held $10 million in principal. Generated $500,000 annually. After taxes, roughly $100,000 to spend. David Kennedy was a grandchild. Not a child, his portion smaller than his father's generation, but still substantial by any measure. Estimated at $50,000 to $100,000 annually by age 21. These are approximations based on trust structures. The exact amounts were held privately. If he had lived to 1998, when the Merchandise Mart sold for $625 million, his estimated share of the Kennedy family's proceeds, divided among Ethel and her 11 children through complex trusts, might have been several $1 million. David Kennedy had money. More money than most people see in a lifetime. Money that was supposed to buy freedom, independence, the ability to pursue meaning without financial constraint. Instead, the money bought something else. Every dollar bought another day. Not of living, of dying slowly. The money bought heroin, bought cocaine, bought pills, bought access to doctors who would prescribe anything, bought lawyers who would make arrests disappear, bought hotel rooms where he could use alone. The money that was supposed to set him free became the mechanism of his imprisonment. The facilities were the best money could buy. McLean Hospital in Belmont, Massachusetts, Hazelden Foundation in Center City, Minnesota, pioneer of the Minnesota model, and others scattered across the country. Each expensive, each well-regarded, each unable to help. Multiple documented treatment stays over 14 years, at least 6, possibly more. The exact number is unclear. The family lost count. The Minnesota model was progressive for the era. 28 days residential, based on Alcoholics Anonymous 12-step principles, group therapy, spiritual focus, individual counseling, family involvement, continuing care plans. The revolutionary idea addiction was a disease, not a moral failure. Addicts deserved dignity, not condemnation. They were sick. Not bad. They needed treatment, not punishment. This was radical in the 1970s. Each stay cost $20,000 to $30,000. 6 stays equals $120,000 to $180,000 just for residential treatment. Add legal fees from drug arrests, medical costs from hospitalizations, overdoses, infections, heart problems, psychiatric care, emergency rooms. The total climbs $500,000 to $1 million over 14 years. Conservative estimate does not include the drugs themselves, the hotels, the bail, all the costs never recorded. In 1980, a scandal. Dr. Lee Macht, Harvard Medical School psychiatrist, disciplined for improperly prescribing narcotics to David Kennedy, the prescription high doses of Percodan, an opioid painkiller. Percodan is an opioid, pharmaceutical grade. The doctor's theory: break the heroin addiction by substituting prescription opioids, controlled substances, known dosages, clean pills, medical supervision. It did not work. David was trading one addiction for another, heroin for Percodan, street drugs for prescription drugs, the needle for the pill. But the need remained the same. The compulsion remained. The escape remained. He was still trying to turn off the television screen frozen at 12:47 a.m. June 6, 1968. The pattern repeated itself. Treatment. David would enter. Detox. Withdrawal. Shaking. Sweating. Vomiting. Pain. Then stabilization. Group therapy. Sharing his story. Learning the steps. Working with a counselor. Appearing to improve. Appearing to understand. Appearing to commit. Brief sobriety after discharge. Days. Sometimes weeks. Return to Hickory Hill. Attend meetings. See family. Seem better. Seem hopeful. Then relapse. Slowly at first. A pill. A drink. Then faster. Back to heroin. Back to daily use. Back to needing it to function. Months of using, hiding it, then unable to hide it. Another crisis. Another overdose. Another near death. Another intervention. Another tearful promise. Another treatment center. Another 28 days. Another discharge. Another relapse. Each stay was a reset button. The family kept pushing it, hoping this time would be different. This facility, this approach, this counselor, the button did not work. But they kept pushing, because what else could they do? Give up, admit money could not fix this, that love could not fix this, that the best treatment available could not fix this, so they paid. David went, came out, used again. Money bought time. Not healing, just time. September 6th, 1979. David Kennedy is 24 years old. He drives his BMW from Manhattan to Harlem. Not to visit friends, not for any legitimate reason. He goes to 125th Street, to a part of the city unfamiliar to him. He goes to the Shelton Plaza Hotel. The Shelton Plaza is known. Police know it. Community knows it. Everyone knows it. A heroin shooting gallery. Drug dealers operate openly in the lobby. Users passed out in hallways. The building had fallen into disrepair. Police describe it as a rendezvous for drug peddlers and their customers. When they search the premises, they find 24 bags of heroin, needles, spoons, all the paraphernalia of addiction. David Kennedy goes there to buy drugs. He parks his BMW on the street, Upper East Side Kennedy, in a $60,000 car driving into one of the most dangerous neighborhoods in New York. Gets out, goes inside, climbs stairs, finds the dealer, makes a purchase, comes back down, goes outside. He is robbed. A small amount of cash taken from his wallet, not the car, not the watch, just the money. He is not hurt physically, not beaten, just the money taken. Police find him outside the hotel, standing by his BMW. They ask what he is doing there, this neighborhood, this time of night, this hotel. He tells them the truth. He was there to buy drugs. They know who he is. David Kennedy, son of Robert Kennedy, nephew of the late president. They do not arrest him. They ask if he is all right, tell him to leave, to go home, to be more careful. He is a Kennedy. So they let him go. Shortly after, David is hospitalized, Massachusetts General Hospital, heart inflammation, again, bacterial endocarditis, again, infection from dirty needles, bacteria entering bloodstream through puncture wounds, traveling to heart, settling in the lining, causing inflammation, damage, potential heart failure. Could kill him. The doctors tell him this. Your heart could stop. This is serious. This could be fatal. Does not kill him. Not yet. He survives, gets treated, recovers, leaves hospital, goes back to using. This is the moment. This is the moment everything changes. This is the moment David Kennedy stopped being an asset and became a burden. Not because he failed treatment. He had failed before. Multiple times. Not because he relapsed. He had relapsed before. But because he made a choice. A clear, deliberate, undeniable choice that revealed something the family had been trying not to see. He chose Harlem over Hyannisport. Chose shooting galleries over sailing yachts. Chose $30 drug deals over the family compound with its private beach and boats and security. Chose risk over safety. Chose strangers over family. Chose death over dynasty. Before September 1979, the family narrative was, let's fix David. Let's get him help. Let's save him. He is troubled but salvageable. He is struggling but he can recover. He is a Kennedy and Kennedys overcome. Kennedys do not quit. Kennedys do not surrender. After September 1979, the narrative changed. Not spoken aloud, not explicitly acknowledged, but understood. Let's manage David until he dies. The family stopped believing he could be saved. They started believing they could only contain the damage, limit the scandal, keep it out of newspapers, prevent him from hurting others. Wait for the inevitable. Asset became burden. Son became statistic in waiting. The boy who watched his father die on television became the man determined to follow. 5 more years followed. 5 more years of treatment centers. 5 more years of relapses. 5 more years of watching someone die in slow motion. 5 more years of hoping each overdose would not be the final one. 5 more years of phone calls in the middle of the night. 5 more years of interventions that did not work. 5 more years of spending money that could not buy what they needed. 5 more years of grief that could not be spoken. 5 more years of waiting. 5 more years until April 25th, 1984, until room 107, until the body between the 2 made beds. What do you do with someone who has everything but chooses nothing except extinction? The family had no answer. David had already given his... Chapter 4. The Brother Who Couldn't Save Him. June 5th, 1968. The Ambassador Hotel, Los Angeles. 2 brothers in room 511, Bobby Jr., age 14, David, age 12. Both watching the television, both watching their father shot, both watching the chaos, the confusion, the image reaching them at 12:47 a.m., both at Good Samaritan Hospital for 26 hours, both waiting, both there when doctors pronounce Robert Francis Kennedy dead at 1:44 a.m. June 7th, both at the funeral. St. Patrick's Cathedral, both on the train from New York to Washington, both at Arlington Cemetery, watching their father lowered into the ground, both returning to Hickory Hill, to a mother pregnant with her 11th child, widowed, overwhelmed, cannot stop moving, will not talk about what happened. Within months of the assassination, both turned to drugs. Bobby first, age 14, 15, marijuana, alcohol, pills, then heroin. David follows. Age 13, his older brother shows him how to numb the pain, how to make the television screen stop replaying, how to turn off the image frozen at 12:47 a.m., how to sleep without nightmares, how to survive. By the time Bobby is 15 and David is 13, both are addicted to heroin, not occasionally. Addicted, daily use, cannot function without it. Same trauma, same father, same hotel, same television, same image frozen in memory, same drugs to make it stop. Through the 1970s, their paths mirror each other. Both expelled from schools, Middlesex, other prep schools. Both arrested for drug possession, multiple times. Both released because they are Kennedys. Both get lawyers instead of jail time. Both in and out of treatment centers. McLean Hospital, Hazelden, others. Both do 28 days. Both seem to improve. Both get discharged. Both relapse within weeks. The pattern identical. Use, crisis, treatment, sobriety, relapse, repeat. Bobby later described David as his best friend. Not just his brother, his best friend. The person who understood. The person who was there in room 511. The person who saw what he saw. The person who knew what it was like to watch your father bleed on television and then be told not to discuss it. They used together sometimes, protected each other, covered for each other, lied for each other. They were the two brothers who could not move forward from June 5th, 1968. Frozen there, would always be frozen there, for 15 years. Their paths stayed parallel, both addicted, both struggling, both in and out of treatment, both seemingly destined for the same tragic end, both racing toward early death. The family watched, intervened, paid for treatment, hoped, but also prepared. Prepared for the phone call, the overdose, the death. It seemed inevitable. Just a matter of which brother, just a matter of when. And then the paths diverged. September 1983. Bobby Kennedy Jr. is 29 years old, 14 years into heroin addiction. He boards a flight to Rapid City, South Dakota. During the flight, he becomes sick, visibly ill, pale, sweating, shaking. Withdrawal beginning. Flight attendants notice, other passengers notice, the Kennedy resemblance, the last name. Word spreads. When the plane lands, airport security is waiting. They search his luggage. They find heroin. Bobby is arrested, handcuffed, processed, fingerprinted, photographed. The mugshot appears in newspapers. Another Kennedy arrested. Another drug scandal. Another embarrassment. He is charged with a felony, then released on his own recognizance, because he is a Kennedy, because he has lawyers, because the system treats Kennedys differently. The arrest makes national news. The Kennedy curse. The family struggles with addiction. RFK's children and their troubled lives. Whether the trauma of the assassination created this, but something different happens this time. Days after the arrest, Bobby makes a decision. He enters rehab. Again. He has been before. Multiple times. McLean, Hazelden, knows the program, knows the steps, has done this before and failed. But this time is different. This time, he commits. This time, he surrenders. This time, he admits he cannot do this alone, that he will die if he does not stop. That 14 years is enough. That June 5th, 1968, does not have to define the rest of his life. This time, he gets sober. September 1983. Bobby Kennedy Jr.'s sobriety begins. The meetings, the steps, the sponsor, the daily commitment. Days become weeks. Weeks become months. He stays clean. Meanwhile, David continues using, David in and out of treatment, David relapsing, David spiraling, David refusing to commit, David unable to let go of June 5th, 1968, April 1984. David Kennedy dies in Palm Beach, room 107. Brazilian Court Hotel. Body found face down between two made beds. Cocaine, Demerol, Mellaril in his system, dead 12 to 14 hours before discovery. 7 months. 7 months between Bobby getting sober and David dying. The math is brutal. 14 years of heroin addiction for Bobby. 14 years for David. Bobby survives. David does not. Best friends. Brothers. Parallel paths for 15 years. Until September 1983, when the paths diverged. Bobby got clean. David did not. Bobby lived. David died. 7 months apart. The accounting is simple and terrible. Bobby got clean. David refused. Bobby stayed sober while David spiraled. Bobby attended meetings while David checked into hotel rooms alone. Bobby worked the steps while David worked the needle into his groin because his arms had too many scars. Bobby lived. David died. The question Bobby Kennedy Jr. carries is more complicated. Did my sobriety kill him? Did watching me get clean prove to David that he could not, that he was different, that he was more damaged, that June 5th, 1968, had broken him in a way it had not broken me, that I could escape and he could not? Did my survival feel like abandonment? We started together. Room 511, the television, the image frozen at 12:47 a.m. We used together. We were best friends, the two who understood, and then I left. I got sober. I moved forward from June 5th, 1968. I left him behind, alone, still frozen, still watching our father bleed, still unable to move. Did that kill him? David once said about the Kennedy family, every man for himself. He said it with bitterness, with resignation, with the understanding that comes from drowning while people watch, even in a family of 11 children, even with all that money and love and trying. You are alone, especially when you are drowning, especially when no one knows how to save you. Bobby got sober in September 1983. David drowned in April 1984. 7 months. 7 months of watching his best friend get clean while he could not. 7 months of feeling more alone than ever. 7 months of everyone hoping Bobby's sobriety would inspire David. 7 months of it doing the opposite. The guilt does not end. Cannot end. Bobby is alive. David is dead. Bobby introduced David to drugs when they were 14 and 12. Bobby showed him heroin. Bobby made it possible. And then Bobby got clean and David did not. Survivor's guilt. Brother's guilt. The guilt of being the one who lived when your best friend died. The guilt of moving forward when your brother stayed frozen. Bobby Kennedy Jr. is still sober in 2025, 42 years of recovery. Longer than the 14 years he used. 3 times longer. He attends 12-step meetings daily. He speaks about his addiction publicly. Owns it. Does not hide it. He says, I was a heroin addict for 14 years. I have been in recovery for 42 years. He has proposed wellness farms for addiction treatment, alternative approaches to the Minnesota model that did not save David. Holistic healing, addressing trauma directly instead of just treating substance use. Built on the understanding that traditional treatment does not work for everyone. Built on the understanding that addiction is often trauma in disguise. Built on the understanding that you cannot treat the heroin without treating June 5th, 1968. Without talking about what happened. Without saying your father died and you watched and that broke something. Built on the foundation of his brother's grave. Built on the understanding that came too late. Built on 42 years of survivor's guilt. Is getting clean a betrayal when your best friend is still dying? Bobby got clean. David died. The question remains. Has remained for 41 years. Will remain for the rest of Bobby's life. Chapter 5. The Failure of Understanding. The Minnesota model was revolutionary for its time, developed at Hazelden Foundation in the 1950s and 60s, based on Alcoholics Anonymous principles, built on a radical idea: addiction is a disease, not a moral failure. Addicts are sick, not bad. They need treatment, not punishment. This was progress in the 1970s. Before this, Addicts were arrested, institutionalized, subjected to harmful medical procedures. The Minnesota model offered dignity, respect, hope. 28 days residential treatment. Remove the addict from their environment. Provide structure, safety, medical supervision during withdrawal. 12-step program. Admit powerlessness. Surrender to a higher power. Make amends. Help others. Steps designed to rebuild a life destroyed by substances. Group therapy. Addicts helping addicts. Sharing stories. Breaking isolation. Learning you are not alone. That recovery is possible. Individual counseling. One-on-one sessions. Exploring triggers. Developing coping strategies. Planning for life after discharge. Family involvement when possible. Education for family members. Understanding addiction as disease. Learning to support recovery without enabling use. Continuing care after discharge. Outpatient therapy. Daily AA meetings. Sponsor relationships. Recovery is lifelong. Medical care for physical damage. Treating infections, heart problems, liver damage. All the ways substances destroy the body. Spiritual recovery. Addressing the void that addiction fills. Finding meaning beyond the drug. This was what treatment offered in the 70s and 80s. State of the art. Best available. Progressive. Compassionate. David Kennedy received all of it. 6 days minimum, possibly 8 or 10, roughly 30 days each. McLean Hospital, Hazelden Foundation, others, counseling, group sessions, medical care, spiritual guidance. The Minnesota model done correctly. Treatment competent. Facilities excellent. Therapists trained. Program followed. David received the best addiction treatment money could buy in the United States between 1970 and 1984. And it did not work. Not because the treatment was bad, but because the treatment was treating the wrong thing. There was a question no one asked. Not his mother, not his siblings, not his therapists, not his counselors, not his psychiatrists, not in 6 treatment stays, not in 14 years, not once. The question was, what happened June 5th, 1968? The treatment asked, how much are you using? When did you start? What triggers your use? How can you avoid triggers? What will you do differently after discharge? But no one asked, what did you see on that television screen? What did it feel like to watch your father shot? What did the 26 hours feel like while he died? What happens in your mind when you close your eyes? Because 70s and 80s psychiatry did not understand what David Kennedy had. Post-traumatic stress disorder in children was barely recognized. The diagnosis existed for combat veterans, for soldiers from Vietnam, but not for children, not for civilians, not for 12-year-old boys who watched their fathers assassinated on live television. PTSD was not applied to civilians until the late 80s. The understanding that trauma could shatter a child's mind the same way it shattered a soldier's came later. Too late for David. There were no protocols for child witnesses to violence, no trauma therapy for assassination survivors, no treatment designed for someone whose formative wound was watching their father bleed out on national television while everyone told them not to talk about it. Dual diagnosis treating addiction and underlying mental health simultaneously was not standard practice. You treated the heroin, or the depression, or the anxiety. But not all together, not as interconnected, not as symptoms of the same wound. Medication-assisted treatment was available but stigmatized. Methadone could help heroin addicts, but it was considered trading one addiction for another, not offered at prestigious facilities. Prolonged exposure therapy for PTSD, eye movement desensitization, and reprocessing. These treatments were not developed until the 90s, a decade after David died. The gap between what David needed and what was available was vast. They treated heroin addiction. He needed treatment for witnessing his father's assassination. These are not the same thing. The heroin was not the problem. The heroin was the solution. To a problem no treatment addressed. David kept waiting for someone to talk about his father's death. His mother said it was not a subject she wanted to discuss. The therapists asked about drug use. The counselors taught the 12 steps, The psychiatrists prescribed medications for withdrawal. But no one said, "Tell me about June 5th, 1968. Tell me about room 511. Tell me about the television. Tell me about 12:47 a.m. Tell me about the image you cannot stop seeing. Tell me about the moment everything broke." Not his mother, not his therapists, not his counselors, not his doctors, not in 6 days, not in 14 years, not once. St. Mary's Hospital, Minneapolis, Minnesota, March through April 1984. David's final treatment stay, 30 days. His 6th documented stay, possibly his 8th or 10th. He goes through the program again. Detox, withdrawal, shaking, sweating, vomiting, then stabilization, groups, sessions, steps, the same routine. He knows what to say, knows what they want to hear, knows the language of recovery. He can recite the steps, share in group, appear to commit. But something different happens this time. Final week of treatment, individual counseling session. Just David and his therapist, the therapist pressing harder than usual, asking why David keeps relapsing, why treatment never sticks, why he cannot stay sober more than a few weeks. David is quiet for a long time. Then he says something he has struggled to articulate for 16 years. The words come slowly. He does not want to get better. The therapist asks, why? Why would you not want to recover? Why choose continued suffering? David's answer, as later recounted by those familiar with his treatment, reveals the mechanism that has trapped him. Getting better would mean letting go. Letting go would mean moving forward from June 5th, 1968. Moving forward would mean leaving his father behind. This he cannot do, will not do, chooses not to do. The mechanism revealed. After 14 years, after 6 treatment stays, after $1 million spent, after countless interventions and relapses and near deaths, the drugs are not the problem. The drugs are the solution to a problem no treatment has addressed. His father is dead. He watched it happen. On television, June 5th, 1968, 12:47 a.m. The image frozen in his mind for 16 years. The pain is his connection to his father, the only connection he has left. The drugs let him live with the pain without being destroyed by it. The drugs keep him connected. Recovery would mean letting go of the pain. Letting go of the pain would mean letting go of his father. Moving forward from June 5th, 1968, accepting that his father is dead and will stay dead, that the television screen will never change, that 12:47 a.m. is over. He cannot do that, will not, chooses not to. To recover would be to forget. To forget would be to abandon. To abandon his father would be the ultimate betrayal. So he chooses pain, chooses loyalty, chooses death. The therapist writes this in his notes. The revelation comes too late. There are 3 days left in treatment. Not enough time to address this. Not enough time to unpack 16 years of frozen grief. Not enough time to develop a new treatment plan for a wound this deep. April 19th, 1984. David completes his 30 days. He is discharged, flies to Palm Beach for Easter with his family. He was not cured. He was exhausted. 6 days later, he will be dead in room 107 of the Brazilian Court Hotel. Can you treat addiction when drugs are the only thing keeping someone connected to the dead? The answer arrived too late. Chapter 6. The Last Days. April 19th, 1984. David Kennedy arrives in Palm Beach, Florida, for Easter, to see his family, to see his grandmother. The Kennedy estate sits at 1095 North Ocean Boulevard. Beachfront, palm trees, white stucco. The Florida version of Hyannis Port, purchased by Joseph Kennedy Sr. decades ago, a winter retreat for the family. Rose Kennedy is there, 93 years old, failing, bedridden, barely conscious. The matriarch who outlived her husband by 15 years, who outlived 4 of her 9 children. Joe Jr. killed in World War II, Kathleen in a plane crash, John assassinated. Robert assassinated. Now watching her grandchildren destroy themselves. The family gathers for Easter. Multiple Kennedys, siblings, cousins, aunts, uncles. The compound full of people. David arrives intoxicated, erratic, high on something. Possibly already using, possibly never stopped after leaving St. Mary's Hospital 6 days ago. The Easter gathering does not go well. David is too loud, too emotional, too obviously high. The family tries to manage him, tries to calm him down, tries to get him to leave quietly. He will not leave quietly. There is a scene. The details are not recorded, but the result is clear. David is thrown out, told to leave, removed from his own family's Easter celebration. He is 28 years old, son of a murdered senator, nephew of a murdered president, grandson of one of the richest men in America, and he is thrown out of Easter dinner, 5 miles from the mansion. David checks into a hotel, the Brazilian Court Hotel, 301 Australian Avenue, Palm Beach, white stucco, Spanish-style architecture, red tile roof, built in the 1920s, modest by Kennedy standards. $150 per night. Room 107, 2-room suite, bedroom and sitting room, 2 beds in the bedroom. Neither will be slept in. April 20th. David checks in. His brother Douglas checks in with him, trying to keep an eye on him, trying to make sure he does not do something stupid, trying to keep him safe. April 23rd. Douglas checks out. David asks him to leave, says he wants to be alone. Douglas hesitates, but David insists. Douglas leaves. David stays. 5 miles from the family estate. 5 miles from his grandmother dying. 5 miles from his mother and siblings. The last days. 6 witnesses. 6 accounts. All saying the same thing. Witness 1. Nellie McGrail, housekeeper at Rose Kennedy's home. She sees David visit his grandmother sometime during these final days. David enters the bedroom, sees his grandmother, 93 years old, bedridden, barely conscious, barely recognizable as the woman who raised 11 children and outlived half of them. Nellie McGrail later says he started to cry and ran out of the room when he first saw her. She describes him as heartbroken, unable to bear seeing his grandmother in such bad condition. This is goodbye. David knows it. Rose does not recognize him, may not even know he is there, but he knows. This is the last time he will see her. She will outlive him by a decade. Witness 2, a friend at the Kennedy compound, name not recorded. Later tells investigators that David was most upset about his grandmother's condition, that he had never seen her in that bad condition before, that he kept saying he wished he could do something, but there is nothing to do. She is 93. She is dying. This is what dying looks like. Everyone dies, even Kennedys, even matriarchs, even women who seem immortal. Witness 3. Harriet Couch, opera company performer, vacationing in Palm Beach. She meets David at the Kenya Club bar on April 23rd, 2 days before his death. They talk for 2 hours. She finds him charming, sad, deeply troubled. During the evening, she sees him go outside to a car with Peter Marchant, the hotel bellhop from the Brazilian court. She watches them through the window, sees David snorting cocaine in Marchant's car. David comes back inside, complains to her that the cocaine looked bad. Marchant blamed the humidity, said the quality was fine, the weather just made it clump. David is upset, goes back to the bar, drinks more, eventually leaves, back to the hotel, seeking worse and worse drugs, lower quality, more dangerous, more desperate. Witness 4, Leslie Griffin, student at Fairfield University in Connecticut, vacationing in Palm Beach. She meets David 4 days before his death. She spends a lot of time with him over those 4 days. Later describes him as sobbing and severely depressed. Witness 5, a woman David was dating, name withheld from police records. She sees him in the days before his death. Later describes him the exact same way, sobbing and severely depressed. 2 different women, 2 different relationships, same description, sobbing, severely depressed. Witness 6. Marian Niemann, German model, vacationing in Palm Beach. She meets David at a bar. They dance, they have drinks, they talk. She notices something wrong, something deeply wrong. She asks him directly, "David, this is very sad. You are so nice. You make all people around you unhappy. Why do you take drugs?" Direct, blunt, the question no one else has asked. Not his mother, not his therapists, not his family. But this stranger asks it. David answers, "I can't. I cannot forget my father on this. I never find peace inside. I've been full of pain." This is the only time in 16 years that David Kennedy speaks the complete truth to anyone. Not "I have an addiction," not "I can't stop," not "I have a disease," but "I cannot forget my father." 16 years after June 5th, 1968. The television screen is still playing. 12:47 a.m. is still happening. His father is still on the ground. The chaos is still there. The confusion is still there. He cannot forget. Has never forgotten. Will never forget. Marian Niemann is a stranger. She will never see him again. But she is the one person to whom David tells the truth. The pattern revealed across 6 witnesses. 6 accounts, all the same. Crying, heartbroken, sobbing, depressed, full of pain. Cannot forget. He was saying goodbye to everyone, not explicitly, not with words, but with his presence, with his pain, with his inability to hide anymore. He was saying goodbye. Sometime between late night April 24th and early morning April 25th. David Kennedy dies alone in room 107 of the Brazilian Court Hotel. The autopsy will reveal what killed him: cocaine, substantial amount, Demerol, a painkiller, synthetic opioid, Mellaril, a tranquilizer, antipsychotic. The combination, lethal. Evidence of recent drug use. His arms showed years of damage. He had resorted to more dangerous methods. The medical examiner noted the progression of his addiction: scars around the veins of his right forearm, years of needle marks, track marks, the physical evidence of 14 years of heroin addiction, physical evidence consistent with an overdose. The body showed signs of distress in his final moments. He died alone. In room 107, no one there to help, no one to call for medical assistance. The scene tells the story: body face down on the floor, between the 2 beds. Both beds made. Neither slept in. The maid service had not been needed. David had not used the beds, had not slept. This was not a bedroom. This was an altar. A place to complete the ritual begun 16 years ago. A place to finish what started at 12:47 a.m. June 6th, 1968. The estimated time of death, 12 to 14 hours before discovery. Body temperature, rigor mortis. The calculations the medical examiner makes. Late evening, April 24th, or very early morning, April 25th. He died alone, in the dark, on the floor of a hotel room 5 miles from his family. The discovery has already been shown. Elizabeth Barnett, 11:32 a.m. The body, the phone call, Ethel's response. He's dead, isn't he? Now the police arrive. The medical examiner, the investigators. Police Chief Joseph Terlizzi makes an initial statement to the press. There was no drug paraphernalia in the room. Clean room, no needles, no spoons, no tourniquets, no cocaine residue visible, no evidence of drug use. But the investigation reveals something different. Traces of cocaine in the toilet bowl. Traces of Demerol. Faint but present. Chemical analysis confirms it. Someone flushed the drugs before the police arrived. Someone cleaned the room, removed the evidence, made it look cleaner than it was. Who unknown? The investigation could not determine who had access to the room between David's death and the official discovery. The records are sealed. The mystery remains. May 16th, 1984. 3 weeks after David's death, 2 hotel bellhops are arrested. Peter Andrew Marchant, 24 years old. From Warwick, Rhode Island. David Linwood Dorr, 30 years old. from Yarmouth, Massachusetts, charged with supplying cocaine to David Kennedy. Federal offense. Conspiracy to distribute controlled substances. Both take plea deals. Lesser charges, probation, community service, no jail time. 2 men who sold drugs to a Kennedy, who provided the cocaine that contributed to his death. Who knew he was using? Who kept supplying him anyway? Probation. At what point does an overdose stop being accidental? David Kennedy chose to inject, chose the hotel room, chose to be alone, chose everything that led to April 25th, 1984. But he made those choices because 16 years earlier, he watched his father shot on television and no one helped him process it, because his mother would not discuss it, because the treatment centers treated his heroin but not his trauma, because he was a Kennedy and Kennedys do not cry. At what point does an overdose stop being accidental? The answer is complicated. The answer is painful. The answer is it was never fully accidental, and it was never fully intentional. It was inevitable. Chapter 7. What Remains? April 26th and 27th, 1984. David's body is brought home. To Hickory Hill, 1147 Chain Bridge Road, McLean, Virginia, the estate where he grew up, where he watched the television on November 22nd, 1963, where his mother told him his father's death was not a subject she wanted to discuss. The coffin is placed in the drawing room. Open casket, David in a dark suit, 28 years old, looking younger, looking like he did before the drugs, before the scars, before everything. The wake is Kennedy style. Buffet tables overflowing, ham, turkey, macaroni casserole, tomato aspic, lasagna, food everywhere, babies squealing, dogs running through the rooms, 2 Roman Catholic priests circulating, offering prayers, offering comfort that cannot comfort. Ethel spends much time with David's coffin, standing beside it, looking at her 4th son. The sensitive one, the artistic one, the one who could not keep moving. The brothers are close to tears, but they remember the rule, the family rule, passed down from their grandfather Joseph Patrick Kennedy Sr., dead 15 years, but his voice still heard. Kennedys don't cry. Whether their grandfather ever spoke those exact words is uncertain, but the ethos was real, the expectation was clear. The brothers remember. They do not cry. That night, the wake has gaiety. This is how Kennedys mourn. Food, family, life continuing. David's coffin in one room, party in the others. Laughter mixed with grief. Motion instead of stillness. The Kennedy way. Morning of April 27th, caravan from Hickory Hill. But first, a stop. Arlington National Cemetery. The family gathers at the Kennedy plots. Prayers at John F. Kennedy's grave, eternal flame flickering. Then prayers at Robert F. Kennedy's grave, hillside overlooking Washington. Brothers, sisters, mother, all standing at their father's grave. David's coffin in the hearse nearby. But David will not be buried here. Not at Arlington. Not with his father. Not with his uncle. The caravan continues north, to Massachusetts, to Brookline, Holyhood Cemetery. The Kennedy family plot, purchased by Joseph Kennedy Sr. in 1958 for $15,000, on a hill, quiet, private. David is buried alongside his grandfather Joseph, his grandmother Rose, who will outlive him by a decade, his aunt Rosemary. Later, he will be joined by his cousin Michael, not buried at Arlington, not with his father, not with the eternal flame, not with national mourning, buried in Brookline with silence. Senator Ted Kennedy makes a statement to the press. This is a very difficult time for all members of the family, including David's mother, his brothers, his sisters, who tried so hard to help him over the years. We all loved him very much. With trust in God, we pray that David has finally found the peace he did not find in life. The peace he did not find in life. 16 years of searching, 16 years of using, 16 years of trying to turn off the television screen frozen at 12:47 a.m., now buried in the ground, at peace. Finally, 2 Kennedy funerals, 16 years apart. Robert F. Kennedy, June 8, 1968, St. Patrick's Cathedral, New York City. Thousands of mourners, dignitaries from around the world. The service televised, the nation watching, then the train. 21 cars, New York to Washington. 8 hours instead of 4. The tracks lined with people, hundreds of thousands, standing in the heat, holding candles even though it is daylight, holding signs, waving, crying, reaching out as the train passes. Nighttime burial at Arlington National Cemetery, near his brother John. Eternal flame. Cameras, history being made. National mourning, a country grieving. Remembered. Televised, iconic. David Kennedy. April 27th, 1984. Private wake at Hickory Hill. Brief service. Brookline, Massachusetts. Small gathering. Limited press. Family and close friends only. No train. No crowds. No candles. No national mourning. Quickly forgotten. No eternal flame. A family embarrassment more than a family tragedy. The distance between the 2 burials. Robert F. Kennedy buried at Arlington with an eternal flame and a nation's tears. David Kennedy buried in Brookline with silence and a family's shame. 20 feet of grass might as well be infinity. The distance is not geographic. It is moral. One son worthy of remembering. One son too painful to discuss. One death a national tragedy. One death a private humiliation. Robert died a martyr. David died an addict. But both died because of violence. Robert from a bullet. David from the image of that bullet on a television screen 16 years later. The nation mourned Robert. The nation forgot David. August 13th, 1973. Where we left Pamela Kelly. 18 years old, paralyzed from the chest down, doctors telling her she will not survive past 40, that she will never have children, that her life is effectively over before it began. Settlement money long gone by 1983. But Pamela did something David could not do. She refused to accept the prognosis. 1970s through 1980s. Pamela learns wheelchair life, the limitations, the adaptations, the reality that her body will never work the way it did before August 13th. 1973. She fights her own substance abuse, the pain, the depression, the temptation to numb it all. She fights, and she wins. She moves to Hyannis, Massachusetts, near the Kennedy compound. The irony not lost on anyone. She gets a wheelchair-accessible house. She builds a life. The work begins. Pamela becomes a founding member of CORD, Cape Organization for the Rights of the Disabled. She becomes executive director, serves for more than 20 years. Colleagues describe her as a frontline activist, articulate, personable as the devil, full of chutzpah. She fights colleges to comply with federal accessibility laws, wins battles that cost institutions millions of dollars, makes Cape Cod accessible, literally fights on the streets for equal access. Transportation, housing, employment, everything. Personal life. Pamela marries, becomes Pamela Kelly Berkeley. Has a daughter, Paige Berkeley. The doctors said it was impossible. The doctors were wrong. 2 grandchildren. The doctors said she would never have children. Never see grandchildren. Wrong again. The doctors said she would die at 40. She lives to 65, 25 years past their prediction. 2005, 32 years after the accident. Pamela speaks to the press for the first time. Joe Kennedy paid her around $50,000 total over the years. $50,000 for a lifetime of paralysis. For a settlement that was gone in 10 years. She tells reporters, "He treats me like trash. Joe could have helped more." Joe Kennedy denies this. Pledges to continue helping. There is no evidence he did. November 20th, 2020. Pamela Kelly Berkeley dies. Age 65. Survived by her daughter Paige. 2 grandchildren. Remembered as a disability rights pioneer. The accounting is brutal. Pamela Kelly, paralyzed by Kennedy recklessness, given a settlement that disappeared, built a career anyway, had a family anyway, lived a full life anyway, won anyway. David Kennedy, traumatized by Kennedy tragedy, given annual income for life, given $500,000 to $1 million in treatment, built nothing, had no family, died at 28, lost. Pamela proved that paralysis does not mean powerlessness. David proved that money does not mean freedom. Could trauma therapy in 1968 have saved him? Unknown. That therapy did not exist. Child witness protocols were not developed. PTSD was not diagnosed in civilians. We will never know. But probably, if someone had asked the right questions, if someone had said, "Tell me about the television, tell me about what you saw, tell me about your father," but no one did. So we will never know. Did the Kennedy myth kill him? Partly. The pressure to be tough, to compete, to never show weakness. Kennedys don't cry. The belief that emotion is weakness, that asking for help is failure. But other Kennedys survived. Bobby got sober. Others lived full lives despite the same pressure. So the myth is not destiny. It is weight, but weight can be carried. David chose not to carry it. Was his death intentional? Not officially. The autopsy says accidental overdose. But 16 years of refusing recovery. Harlem shooting galleries, Palm Beach hotel rooms, Marion Neiman asking, "Why do you take drugs?" David answering, "I cannot forget my father." A form of self-destruction. The evidence suggests, yes, not a single moment of decision, but 16 years of choosing death over recovery, over moving forward, over letting go. What did he inherit besides money, unprocessed family trauma across 3 generations? The expectation that Kennedys solve everything. The belief that emotion is weakness. A television screen frozen at 12:47 a.m. A photograph of everyone smiling before the assassination. The burden of being the one who lived when his father died. He inherited wealth, power, legacy, name recognition, opportunity. But he did not inherit the one thing he needed. David Kennedy inherited everything except permission to be broken, permission to grieve, permission to not be okay, permission to talk about June 5th, 1968, permission to cry, permission to be weak, permission to ask for help without shame. The Kennedys do not cry. The Kennedys compete. The Kennedys overcome. David could not compete, could not overcome, could only remember. So he chose loyalty to his father over life, chose frozen grief over moving forward, chose death at 28 over a lifetime without his father. The question is not whether David Kennedy mattered. The question is, how many others are frozen at their own version of 12:47 a.m.? How many are choosing self-destruction because no one gave them permission to be broken? The talismans. Vincent Astor carried his father's pocket watch 47 years. Stopped at 2:20 a.m., April 15th, 1912. Titanic sank. Father drowned. Every morning, vest pocket. Every night, dresser. Second hand, never moved. Time frozen. David Kennedy carried a wallet photograph 16 years. Family before assassination. Everyone smiling. Father's arm around him. Before everything broke. Time frozen. 2 talismans. Both stopped time. Both fathers lost. Both sons carrying weight no one else could see. Vincent died 1959, age 67. Left institutions. Libraries still open. Playgrounds still used. Foundation gave $195 million over 48 years. Work outlasted worker. David died 1984, age 28. Left questions. Opioid crisis proves trauma untreated multiplies. 107,000 dead from overdoses 2021. Brother Bobby's wellness farms built on David's grave. Death became statistic. Vincent's institutions open every morning. David's story kills people every day. Both gravestones silent. Just names. Dates. Vincent spent 67 years proving he deserved his inheritance. David spent 16 years refusing his. Both graves say nothing. But institutions Vincent built still speak. Epidemic, David died in still kills. Was David happy? Never wanted to be? Happiness meant forgetting. Forgetting meant leaving father behind. So David stayed loyal by dying young, by refusing to move forward from June 5th, 1968, by making 12:47 a.m. last forever. Brazilian Court Hotel still stands, 301 Australian Avenue, Palm Beach. Room 107 may not exist. Hotels renumber after deaths, but space remains. Vincent's pocket watch reportedly sold at auction in 2024 for over $1 million. Among the highest prices ever paid for Titanic memorabilia, it sits in a collector's vault somewhere. David's photograph in evidence storage, or returned to family, or lost. But the television screen David carried. The television screen is everywhere. Every child watching violence they cannot process. Every trauma going untreated. Every addiction that is grief in disguise. Every family saying, "We don't talk about that." Every death that could have been prevented if someone asked the right question 16 years earlier. Did David Kennedy matter? The forest of unanswered trauma says yes. This narrative is based on documented facts, court records, medical reports, and interviews, where direct quotes are unavailable. Dialogue has been reconstructed based on accounts from those present and contemporaneous reporting. Scenes depicting David Kennedy's internal experience are interpretations based on his known struggles and the accounts of those who knew him.